We are coming to you live via Facebook streaming. Intellect, the useful tool. In the process of transformation, intellect can be used as an useful tool. You have an idea that truth has to be consistent, and you have been conditioned into it. It is your idea of consistency that prevents you from finding Buddhas and also using intellect as a tool. And with this, you fall into the trap of logicians, philosophers, and thinkers. An awakened one is indeed a paradox, because he sees truth in its totality and tacitly. And indeed, totality or existence is paradoxical. But we cannot see this. We consider intellect as an obstruction in the journey of self-realization or inwardness. What is intellect? An accumulation of knowledge. Therefore, all training and sharpening of the intellect is considered just useful. Then the question arises, why not introduce children into meditation directly without imparting them any training in the way of intellect? It is argued. Indeed, meditation is the missing link in education and human life as well. We spend a large number of years in our education system, starting from the primary education, secondary education, university education, post-university education. As an individual, you spend nearly 25 to 27 years of your precious life into university campuses in the corridor of education. And after that, you are given credentials, you are given awards and so many things, and you are told that now you are ready to plunder into the world outside. But have you ever wondered, do you have answers to simple questions that life asks? Life asks on a day-to-day basis many questions, for which we seek answer in this scripture, that scripture. If you are a Hindu, you are seeking the answers in Bhagavad Gita or Hindu scriptures. If you are from Islamic faith, you will be finding the answers in Holy Quran. And there are people who will tell you that your questions and solutions from Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita have solution for everything. I have heard a young seeker came to a monastery. The head of the monastery was an old man. He stayed there for 1 week. Every day he was talking about simple things. There was no scriptures, there was no knowledgeable in things that we consider as part of spirituality. Nothing like that. Sit down and you will inquire from the people how is everything, how things going, and simple things which have nothing to do with spirituality. Did you eat food? Did you had a good sleep? And all these things. So he got fed up what kind of master he is. He is not talking about the scriptures. He is not talking about these deeper things. And I am here in search of inward journey. And inward journey is considered as a part of these things. So it happened one day a young seeker came in and he had a discourse there. Extensively he spoke from scriptures. He gave interpretations of scriptures. He said, yes, this man seems to be much more knowledgeable than that old guy. Old guy seems to know nothing. His knowledge seems to be rusted now, talking about food, talking about how to cook this, how to cook that, and not talking about knowledge. So he asked, he continued, he was very much impressed with that person. So then this man asked the old man, how did you like the talk of that person? He said he did not speak. What do you mean he did not speak? He spoke for hours and he gave this interpretation and that and so. He said no, he did not speak. He simply repeated the scriptures, what is there already in it. He did not speak out of his own experience. And that cannot transform you. That can please the mind. The mind will say this man is very knowledgeable. But knowledge becomes an obstruction. But the same knowledge, if you know how to arrange it, it can become a stepping stone. Often it is argued that why not introduce children to meditation while they are still innocent, simple, instead of sending them to university. What is the need of that? If you want to pop a balloon, what do you have to do? The balloon is sitting like as if sleeping. So in order to pop the balloon in that state, when you take out from the packet, can you pop it? No. You know that it has a capacity that it can pop anytime. You blow it, you fill it with the air, it will get inflated. And then when you pop it, what will happen after that? Its capacity to inflate is gone. When you pop a balloon, blow it, fill it with the air, pop it, and then try to blow it, it can never blow. Why it cannot blow? Because it has been popped. And why it was inflated? If I put it in my way, it would be the intellect, your knowledge, that you know this, you know that, you are such a great man. All these things inflates the balloon. So your balloon is inflated. I am an elderly person. I have spent so much time here with this master, with that master, and I know this and I know all the scriptures. I can make this, I can make that. But when you come to a master chef, you are coming to learn or teach him. You are coming to learn and give him the opportunity to give a new shape to your knowledge. Add a new dimension to already that you have known. If you were satisfied with your knowledge, you need not come to him. You have come to him simply because you feel that there is something lacking. So what it is important, you have to go through the logic, you have to go through the university education and everything. You have to blow the balloons first and then take a needle, prick it. With that, all that has been blown into it, it will come out. Now it has to be reshaped. Instead of shaping their logic and thinking faculty, instead of educating them, why not introduce them to meditation in their innocence and simplicity? Very simple and logical. But when that happens without Sufi Brajmohan Lal and Sufi Ramchandra Lala ji said, पहले जज्ब और फिर सुलूक के मुकामात की सैर करवानी चाहिए. What is just? Just means absorption of the energy. How can you absorb the energy when there is no emptiness? When your capacity is not there, and ego or your nafs depletes the capacity to absorb. You are full of ego. How can you absorb the energy that is flowing in the company of the master? This is what had happened with that person. He found that the master talking about very simple things. And how can he talk about, either he does not know anything about the scriptures or he is just pretending. So first of all, you have to go through the logic, you have to go through university education, but along with that, the dimension of meditation has to be added on. That this is here, this way, when people come, what is your name? My name is Dr. So-and-so. Is your name Doctor? Doctor is the qualification that you have attained by virtue of this. A prefix has come before your name and you are doctor. Is a qualification, is not your name. Your name is not Mr. or Mrs. Your name is simply X. To identify further that you are a male or female, we add, let that be added by the others. You know that you are a male, you do not need to specify that I am male so-and-so or a female so-and-so. So what is important, along with while the education system is going on, you are going through the corridors of your education, meditation should be introduced as an essential dimension. It would have been all right if intellect was only an obstruction. But you know intellect is an obstruction, but it is a stepping stone. It is a great assistance. Do you want, but an obstacle can also become a stepping stone. You are walking along a pathway and there is a huge rock lying in our ways. Now this is an obstruction. No one can deny. You may return thinking that the pathway does not go any further. You maybe that rock indicates the end. Certainly there is a way forward. If you climb the rock, a new pathway is revealed to you. And certainly this will be totally a different level from the previous one. A new dimension opens up. University refers to the outer dimension and meditation refers to the inner dimension. life is not only outer, not only inner, it is a synergy, it is a harmony, it is a balance between inner and outer. The two has to move in a harmonious way. A new dimension opens up. University education refers to outer dimension and meditation refers to inner dimension. The two are equally relevant for a balanced growth. And if you can create a balance between the two, life will be moving in a totally different direction. An unintelligent man will return from their thinking that the rock to be an obstacle. However, the intelligent one will look around and use the rock as a ladder and a step over the stone to reach the other side. And intelligence or wisdom is a totally different thing from intellect. Intelligence or wisdom is a totally different thing from intellect. Intellect is accumulation of knowledge, and intelligence is the capacity to use what is there in front of you. Without training the intellect, your intelligence comes when you are training the intellect of the children how to use it. How to use that vision, that a stone is an obstacle there. It is standing there like intellect. That you know these things. This is an obstacle, and you have read when there is a big stone, an obstacle, that means the end of the story, end of the pathway. But the intelligence says, let me go a little sideways. Let me use this as a stepping stone and see what it is there. Sometimes somewhere you go and you are trying to reach to some place or visit a business place and you see the road closed. So what do? You come out of the car, take a walking step and you see, yes, the shop is open. You could have returned from there using your intellect, but instead of that you had simply use your intelligence. The door seems to be having the sign door. Any shop, they have a sign open and close. When you reach there, you see the sign says closed. You can return from there saying that the shop is closed. That is theory, that is intellect. When there is a sign saying the closed, it is closed. But no, what I will do, I will go there, peep inside the store and see, hey, look, there is a man, there is a salesperson inside. Give a gentle knock at the door. Yes, what can I help you? Oh, are you opening or closed? Give us a few minutes. We are opening in a few minutes. We just got a key back this morning. Oh, this is intelligence. The first was intellect. You saw the sign, closed, and you return. I will go and knock at the door and find out why it is. Sometimes these sort of situations comes in our lives. So you have to learn the capacity to transform intellect into intelligence. An unintelligent one will return from there thinking the rock to be an obstacle. Or the business is closed. However, an intelligent one will use the rock as a stepping stone and step over the stone to reach the other side. Intelligent one, I use my intelligence, knock at the door and find out that the person reached a little bit late or there was some matter to be resolved. That's why the shop is not open at the appointed time. Give me a few minutes, we are opening just now. Without training the intellect, children will remain like an animal. It is not that they will become wise, not that they become like Buddhas, Mahavirs, Krishnas, Christ or Muhammad. They will remain the wild animals. Of course, they would not have the obstacle, but they certainly would not have the means to climb up either. In itself, neither is the stone an obstacle, nor the ladder a help. You have to learn to use the stone as a stepping stone or the ladder to climb. It is your capacity to use, first thinking capacity, then the practical capacity to balance yourself, to step over the stone, to reach to the other side. So it is necessary that every child goes through the proper intellectual training along with the essence of meditation. Meditation will balance emotions. There are people who have grown up physically, but they do not grow emotionally. They are emotionally disturbed somewhere or the other, and that emotional disturbance comes, reflects through their face, reflects through their way of life, the walking, the talking, and everything. You train them through intellectual training. And the more beautiful and sharp this training is, it will nullify the stronger, bigger, and the vaster rock of intellect. Intellect comes like a rock. It will nullify the effects. And then it will be better because in the same proportion, it is the means to rise to greater heights. And one who gets crushed under the rock is dull-witted, is your priest. He keeps on repeating the same thing over and over again. Krishna said this, but he doesn't know. What does he say? Tell me what you have known. Tell me what you have understood. The old man said this man was speaking. He spoke, but he did not speak. He spoke and he did not speak. What does this mean? This is a paradox. He spoke all that his wisdom, his intellect told him. He has learned, remembered, grasped, memorized the scriptures, and he is quoting them one after the other in a mechanical way. When Shankar was walking through the lanes of Varanasi, he saw an old haggard man with no teeth in his mouth, his stomach and the back merging into one another, trying to remember the rules of grammar. Rules of grammar means the language. The language means intellect. Naturally, this compassion of Shankar overflowed. And he says, Bhaj Govindam Murmati. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam Murmate. Samprapte sannihite kale, nahi nahi rakshat dukrish karne. Seek eternal. Seek that which is. What shall you gain, O fool, by remembering the rules of grammar? You are already coming close to the doorstep of death. So it is necessary that every child goes through the proper intellectual training, and the more beautiful and sharp this training is, it will nullify the stronger, bigger, and the vaster rock of intellect, and then it will be better because in the same proportion it is a means to rise to greater heights. The one who gets crushed under this rock is Pandit, the priest, the dull-witted. And one who stands on the top of the rock is mystic. And one who, out of fear, does not even come close to the rock is ignorant one. You decide which category you want to belong to, ignorant one, or dull-witted, or the wise one. The intellect of an ignorant one was never trained. The intellect of the ignorant one was never trained, and the priest's intellect was trained, but he could not go beyond the boundaries of the known, the scripture. The scripture is known. It is the dimension of the known. And the wise one's intellect was not trained only, but also managed to go beyond it. It was trained. I am trained in the use of language, the complete command on the language and the words and how which word to use where and how, just like an architect, just like a goldsmith, where to put this and where to put that. Now, yesterday I did a very simple thing. If you want to learn, you can learn out of this a lot. Instead of buying the cashew nuts, these nuts from the market, salted, what they do, they fry it in the oil, and that vegetable oils are used. Dry roasted, sometimes you get, but I want to add my flavors. How to add the flavors? What are the flavors that are needed in the cashew nuts? You are using the individual taste. How did I do? Okay, I took a little bit of dry mango powder, that's a sourness. Little bit of pepper sauce to get a bitterness, and salt. Now you know how much is that, what's quantity of the cashew nut is there. So accordingly you add everything in proportion. A balanced chef or the cook learns this out of experience. How much of these things to be added to make a flavor, and a pinch of little bit of few droplets of the water to mix everything together, so that when the cashew nuts are poured into it, it will coat over, the mixture will coat over the cashew nuts. And in the meantime, I use my air fryer and put it to heat. So by mixing it, the mixture of dry mango powder, pepper sauce and salt become a paste, a slurry kind of, not very liquid like, because you want all the liquid or the mixture should coat over the cashew nuts, rather than if it is too watery, it will drip underneath and it will not coat properly. So it's a coating consistency you did. Using the coating, this was not anywhere in the scriptures, in the cooking scriptures, in the cooking manual. It is out of your own experience it comes in. And then I poured into it. It was not a convectional oven that you can set a temperature and do it. So I had to raise the temperature in order for the mixture to dry on that. First the mixture that is coated on the cashew nuts will dry, and thereafter it will turn into golden brown. So by constantly monitoring the temperature and the time, by taking it out the pan, shaking it, putting it back, first the temperature to 140 degrees Celsius. In the air fryer, that temperature is very high, equivalent to almost 300 degree on an ordinary oven. Then bring it at that, if it remains, it will burn. So you know what kind of heat is necessary, and do a certain amount, check it, and then do it over. This is how a master does with his disciples, with individual seekers. He molds them, he trains them in a particular way. What they are capable of according to their capability. And after that, I had to go out and I left it. So whatever heat was there inside, in that it got dry roasted, and when I came up it got cooled also, so it regained their texture, which is supposed to be crunchy rather than the soft, and it became a very tasty dish. Whosoever tasted it, they found is very tasty. So this is what the master uses his recipes with the disciples. This is not in the cooking manual. This is simply out of experience. That is going beyond the known. A Pandit's intellect is trained, but he could not go. He is trained into reading the verses of Sanskrit. He may do a proper intonation. He may chant them properly than I can ever do. He is trained. But he could not go beyond the boundaries of the known or the scripture, because he is told that there is nothing beyond the boundaries of the scriptures. Beyond what Krishna said, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharat. Dharmakshetre kurukshetre samvyeta yuyussavah. Mamaka pandavaschaiv kim kurvat Sanjay. He may use his little bit of here and there intellect or borrowed knowledge. He heard someone, a priest used to come to collect my scripts every Saturday morning when the program was aired. And one day I did not see him, because usually when he will come, I will be there. So I asked him, I said, did you collect the script for the last program? He says, yes, I collected it and I used it in one of my programs. That is what he comes to collect. They take the words, use it here and there, and that's it, finished. Use it and throw it. The wise one's intellect is not only trained but also managed to go beyond it. If you try to avoid that, would not help. Certainly one has to go through it first, and then one day you go beyond as well. And whatsoever experience one goes through in the process certainly intensifies one and also makes one luminous. Buddha and Krishna are extraordinary intelligent ones. Holy Prophet was uneducated, yet his intelligence is extraordinary. My grandmother never went into any school or education, but he was trained in the Institute of Life. Have you ever been to the Institute of Life? Oh, where is that? The intelligence, your intellect will ask, where is that? Can you give me the telephone number or the address of the Institute of Life? Oh, seems to be very intelligent. He was trained in the Institute of Life, yet his intelligence is extraordinary. Just think of an uneducated man. Gave the message through Holy Quran. And now professors, thinkers, doctors are trying to interpret the words of an uneducated man. And this message that he gave to the world as Quran, it has stirred and impressed nearly 1/3 of humanity, and it still remains unintelligible even to the scholars with all their wisdom, all their degrees. And today the words of Quran are still the code of life for Muslims. The man may have been an illiterate, but the sharpness of his intelligence was unique and beyond human comprehension and known dimensions of education. Buddha was educated. Buddha was trained. Krishna went to the school under the under the guidance of the sage. The codes he created are still effective, and millions of hearts are thrilled and inspired by them. And the kind of system he provided in Quran is neither available in Bible, nor in the Upanishads, nor in Gita. In a sense, Quran is multidimensional book. It is not only religion, instead it is a social science as well. And not only a social science, but a political science as well. That's why it is multidimensional. And Holy Prophet tried to discipline life in a complete way and from all dimensions. This is why I call Holy Quran as multidimensional book. From the trivia of life to the vastness of Brahman and the ultimate reality, all he encompassed in Holy Quran, Quran-e-Pak, Quran-e-Majid. This is why Islamic religion, in Islamic religion there is only one scripture, alone Quran, is sufficient. And this is also why Muslims proclaim that God is one. And there is only one messenger, and that one God, one messenger is enough. The man must have been intelligent, and no one can doubt his intelligence. He was uneducated, but being uneducated has nothing to do with having or not having intelligence. Intelligence is a totally different dimension. We see educated ones and find them without intelligence. Your so-called education has nothing to do with intelligence. Intelligence is an inborn quality. It has to be sharpened. In the process of squeezing the essence out of life, experience is the process that is called intelligence. I therefore emphasize the intellect of the child had to be trained. His logic had to be sharpened so that it becomes like a sword. And then whether he will cut himself with the sword to commit suicide or save someone's life, it all depends on his intelligence. A doctor is trained to use his tools, the knives and all the other tools. Intellect needs to be trained, while intelligence is an inborn quality. Logic is just a means. It can be used either way, for destroying life, just as knife, then it is destructive, or for creating life, then it is creative. But one thing is certain, if you keep children deprived of intellect, you cannot make them intelligent. They would be innocent like animal, but they would not be meditative like sages, meditative like awakened ones. Many times it happened that a child has been taken away from the forest by some wolf. Incident revealed that 2 girls were found in the forest near Calcutta in India. Furthermore, a child who has been brought up by the wolves was found in the forest near the city of Lucknow. This child was quite grown up. Physically, he was nearly 14 years of age, but he never received any formal human education. He had never been to any school or any human company. He had always been wolves, and still he was an infant in the cradle. So he was unable to even stand up on his 2 feet, because that too is a part of human training for a child to learn to stand up and then to walk. Never ever think that you are standing on your 2 feet just on your own. You have been taught, trained to stand up on your 2 feet. It was only through proper training you learn to stand up on your 2 feet, and then you learn to make your first steps, and then you started walking. The human body is designed to walk on all fours. No child walks on 2 feet after his birth. He walks on 4 naturally, and you call this as creeping. To walk on 2 feet require a learning process. If you ask scientists and psychologists, they say a very strange thing. They say that human body can never be healthy like that of an animal, because human body was meant to walk on all fours and has messed up everything. He is walking on 2 feet. It has disturbed the entire system. It is like a motor vehicle which is not designed to go up the mountain. In the process of climbing the mountain, the gravitational laws are disturbed. When you walk on the ground on all fours, you are balanced. Your weight is equally distributed on 4. Your body is parallel to the gravitational force. There is an equal amount of gravitational force on your spine, and there is no trouble. But when you stand up on 2 legs, everything is disturbed. The blood has to flow in the opposite direction, upward. The lungs have to work extra unnecessarily. All the time there is a struggle with the gravitational force. The earth is pulling you downwards. So if a man dies of heart failure, there is no wonder in it. No animal dies of a heart failure. Have you ever heard? The heart weakness cannot develop in animal, and it cannot be avoided in man. It is a miracle that if it does not happen to a person, otherwise in general it is bound to happen, because all this reverse work of pumping the blood is being done continuously, which is must. But nature has not designed things that way. So the boy could not walk on 2 feet. He only used to run on all fours and faster. And his running was also not like that of an animal. It was like that of wolves. He also used to eat raw meat like wolves do, because that was his training. He was very powerful. Even 8 men could not find strength to hold him, found it difficult to hold and tie him down. And he was almost a wolf. He may bite, snatch off a portion of your flesh. He was simply ferocious. He had not become a meditative saint. He has become a wild animal. A similar incident happened in the West as well. Children that were brought up in the forest by animals, their life was like that of an animal. Then efforts were made to train this boy for 6 months. All kind of massage and electric treatments were given, and he could barely be able to stand on 2 feet. And just a little lapse, and he would go back on his fours. Without training, it is very difficult to stand up on your 2 feet. You have no idea of and the fun of standing on all fours. Sometimes everyone feels to walk on all fours. But because what people will think about you, you resist. Sometimes on your bed, everyone does that. In the absence, you are standing on your 2 and suffering. The boy was given a name. He got tired of teaching him, and all he could learn and utter before dying a single word, Ram. He would just tell his name. Within 1.5 years of intense training, he died. The scientists who were studying the boy said that he died because of this intense training. He was nothing more than a child of the same wild animal. This shows how much a child's life we may simply be killing by sending him to the school. We kill his joyness, we kill their wildness. That is the whole trouble at schools. A class of 30 students, those 30 wild animals, we hand over them to one teacher. In his hands has fallen the task of making them civilized. This is why there is no other profession more boring than the profession of teaching. There is no other human being more distressed than a teacher. His job is very difficult. But the master does it joyfully because his training is totally a different kind. But these children will have to be educated, otherwise they will not be able to become human beings. Innocent they will be, but that innocence will be that of ignorance. A man is also innocent because of not knowing. But when he becomes innocent after knowing, then he blossoms and becomes a flower of life. Training of intellect is necessary. Then transcendence of intellect is equally important. First you train and then transcend. And how will you lose what you don't have even? If you want to experience the consciousness like that of Krishna or Buddha, you have to look for the intelligence of Krishna. Because you can enjoy leaving only that which you have. How can you experience the peace Einstein will experience by dropping his intellect? That peace will be incomparable. Because that will be the peace after the storm of intellect. Your storm has not yet come. The taste one feels in throwing the intellect aside after much intellectual gymnastic is like that of a pure health one feels after recovering from a serious sickness. Renunciation is a great bliss in the sense that indulgence preceding it was a great misery. Pass through the misery of intellect so that you can attain to the bliss of wisdom. Pass through the anguish of the world so that samadhi, the ultimate ecstasy, awakening into divine, can be yours. You will have to pass through the opposite. That is the only way. And then you have attained the transcendence beyond duality. Then you have attained the transcendence beyond duality. Pass through the misery of intellect so that you can attain to the bliss of wisdom. Pass through the anguish of the world to attain to samadhi, the ultimate ecstasy, the awakening into divinity. You will have to pass through the opposite. That is the only way. And then you have attained to transcendence beyond duality. Only this much for this morning. Until tomorrow, take care and do have a pleasant day.